Welcome to this episode of Threading Thoughts, Motivating Bibliophiles. Reading books can expose you to new ways of understanding the world and handling different situations. It can help you discover your hobbies and explore things that could eventually become your career. Not only is a good memory booster, reading regularly can do wonders for your imagination and creativity. As it exposes you to different ideas and ways of understanding the world, it can help in understanding verbal cues, making a mental image of the situation, comprehending this mental image, and improving your writing. While studies show a range of psychological benefits from book reading, technology seems to have wiped out the era of books, and therein lies the challenge. How do you motivate the bibliophiles? Mohit Gupta conceptualized the idea of FROB, Friends of Books, a social app around books which is still a work in progress, a couple of months ago as a pure passion to chase his love to read books and feed his curiosity. He reads everything literally. He often lends his strategic expertise to few startups and social sector organizations in the field of learning and education. Taking as much public transport to commute or driving as an electric car, using half a bucket of water to bathe and having minimum lighting and air conditioning throughout the day are few of his ways to follow his path of conservation. His venture is backed by some senior industry veterans and they have chapters in a couple of countries with many reader circles. Mohit has also worked with some top MNCs in the past in the field of banking and financial services. I'm so glad to be talking to Mr. Mohit today. A person of varied interest, but more interestingly, a person who has brought the love of reading and books back to the mainstream in his own inimitable way. So I'm so glad to welcome you today, Mohit, and really thank you for taking the time off to talk to us as well. And we have a few interesting questions, but I think it's just the beginning of a lot of very interesting places that we want to see your initiative take place. So welcome to Threading Thoughts.
Namaskar, Mridula ji. Such a pleasure to be here. And thanks for being so curious to know of what we do and what we do for the society. We are very glad to be here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Actually, the pleasure is completely mine. Let me sort of start off with a quick, maybe just to satisfy my curiosity, right? So that with an increase in online reading and attention spans reducing quite a bit, I mean, thanks to a lot of the videos and, social media sites online. So how did you come up with this idea of a book vending machine? And why? That's more interesting. Yeah.
So this idea was there in my mind, and then suddenly I saw that in Europe somebody tried it with children's books. So I thought, why not do it here today as well? That is one. Secondly, especially on the first part of your question, while the reading is going down and there's a lot of video content that is being created, I always say the mother of all content is our books.
Absolutely.
So the mommy is the book. So even if you have to make a video on, say, anything, you need to read about it. You need to research. And even if you have to search on Google, it also comes from somebody's thoughts, right? Somebody would have done research. So they will have to document it. That entire format, the first face is definitely a book or something which is being written or typed. So it's very important that people should give respect to reading. Altogether, reading is not coming down because of more content being created. People are reading more. They are producing more as well. It's just that at this point of time, it's very important that we put a structure to how we choose books. So our model is very clear. We are very simple. We are a simple one question company, organization, society, whatever you call us. But we are simple one question. What are you curious about? And we know your curiosity. That's it. Then we will solve it for you. Unless and until I know what you are curious about, Mridula ji, or to anyone, I will just keep recommending the books that I like.
True.
But most important thing is, what do you like? How can I help you? And then comes the logic. And this comes from a very old bookshop when I was very young, in a very small town in Uttar Pradesh. I used to go to a bookstore, and one of the employees of that bookstore was a very passionate reader. I still remember. I don't remember his name, but he was very old that time. Every time we used to go buy a stationery, a compass, a geometry box, he always used to ask, "What is it that you would like to read? What do you want to know?" And then he used to pick out a book. So that's what we are trying to apply, and I think our job is to build that habit and based upon the curiosity. That's it.
No, that's absolutely lovely. And as you correctly said, reading has gone up, but I think just the mode has changed quite a bit. For example, now it's also a question of audiobooks. My personal preference, I like reading a lot. But what has happened is, now I wear glasses. So by the time late evening, I'm tired, my eyes are tired. So I just want to hear what is happening, right? So,
Yeah.
but my interest is still there. And I think that's a very important point, because it's sometimes we don't realize where the interest is. It's just for us to actually find it again. And I think that is
Yeah.
where you really, really play an important role to re-find
Right.
our interest, as they say, relocate it.
Yeah.
But the other also, I think a lot of interesting things is, generally, I think people are taking an effort to read more books. I see a huge stack of books right behind you, and that's the best way of actually proving what it is that you're bringing to the table, right? But
Ask my wife and my daughter who don't want to come into this room.
well, to each his own. So that's always interesting. But it's really nice to see a sort of an interest to rekindle, I think, something that's already there, but in different forms, right? And to sort of refocus what we're doing. So that's interesting. And so I wanted to know, how has been the interest or the reaction, not from a few, but generally, what has been your, reaction, or what has been the reaction, or what has been the feedback, or, has there been enough ground up movement to help this?
Yeah, so first on the vending machine side, yes, this is an innovative idea. We were amongst the first. Of course, there was Malaya Manorama that was distributing their own books, magazines, and other things, but it was not specifically for the books and that to curated books.
Correct.
It used to be on airports way back, and I was always fascinated with that. What we have done, we have just figured out a blue ocean around distribution of books. So there are bookstores, they are not able to sell because it's a display of books, it's an exhibition of books. The person who you have to interact is only meant for billing. Publishers themselves have their own challenges in terms of distribution. So with this vending machine, it solves most of the problems. We can keep up to 200 books, 20 plus titles in just one machine. It requires just 1 meter square, and we have very good partners who are giving us the machines as well. In fact, one of our co-founding team members, also an investor in that company. So we had all the synergies in place. We are placing it all over. We launched it at the Museum Expo in Pragati Maidan, where Prime Minister Modi was also there. And a lot of other cabinet ministers, other educationalists also visited. And we were able to do a decent level of curiosity building in the people. And that's how we got the idea. Interesting part is through this vending machine, we can know what the person is interested in, and the entire cataloging can happen. It's easy. And of course, there's an element of the sound of swish drums. The book comes out. It's very
True,
interesting.
true.
Initially, it's pretty decent. People are liking it. We are now deploying it at many places, including some of the temple campuses, bus stands, railway stations, airports, malls, many other places. So it's just been 15 days and we have enough interest. I have been traveling. I was in Ayodhya, Lucknow, Banaras, many other places just to look at places. A lot of government buildings we are placing it. So there's a lot of interest and we are very passionate about it because this also gives us a reason to distribute good books with good recommendations. On the overall FROB, the response has been pretty interesting and that's why we all are very focused into it. We believe this is a very niche place and it also satisfies my needs of reading a lot of different subjects and meeting interesting and fascinating people like you, Mridula. So I can say I'm very happy. I'm enjoying what I'm doing.
No, that's absolutely right. There's nothing like, loving what you do. and doing what you love. So I think you're just a standing example of that. And I'm going to loop back into the vending machine very soon. But I just wanted to sort of ask with you, like, how can we build around this idea? Because ultimately, I mean, although it is driven by you, it is also something that has to be driven, self-driven at some point of time by the society. So what can be built around this idea to include society, to inculcate better reading, to make the citizenry to take a stronger stand, right? And in that, if you could just touch upon some of your biggest challenges and some of the solutions that you're finding, even if it's early stages, and this is the toughest part actually, right? So a bit on that.
I think the biggest challenge is our education system, where reading is seen as if that's the mode of education. It is never. Imagine if, so I'll give you an example. During the peak of pandemic or just before pandemic, I was very curious about how do people used to predict rains? Can nature give us some signals? And that was a time when I got very interested in how trees work. And I came across some very fascinating facts that just by seeing the leaves, you can tell whether it will rain today or it will not.
Wow.
And then I collected some of those 10, 15 more such facts, collected my daughter and other friends, started taking them to the park, to the nearby places, and started showing them those signals. So, for example, a honeybee, if you see a honeybee, that means the temperature is above a threshold. That's why honeybee is surviving. If you see a cuckoo singing in a very different way, it gives you 3, 4 signals, and you can actually predict about weather. Now, what I did there in just a week's time, all those children became so curious that they started picking up books and subjects around it. And in fact, it became a point for them to speak about it further in their classes. So we did nothing. Books were a medium to build onto that subject in curiosity. Now, that's where we have started this campaign called Kyun Kyun, where people can just ask a question. So one of the child, he asked, sir, if my soap solution is in colors, why is it so that the foam that comes out is white?
It's white. Wow.
Imagine, this is observation. Now,
Absolutely.
to find an answer, of course, I had to read. I am a science graduate, so I understand it. But still, I needed to go back. Imagine something that I would have studied way back in my class 8th or 9th. I still had no answer to it. And that question actually came from observation. Now, a book can only support. Now, that's where the biggest challenge with the education system is that you read, you mug up, you get marks, you qualify, you become somebody, and that's it. You are educated. But that's not the case, I guess. So that's my biggest challenge, that people perceive that reading is about knowledge, being a geek, being a nerd. No, you can read about anything in the world, and I can challenge. I have come across weirdest subjects, and there's a book on it. Weirdest means weirdest. You can't imagine. There's a book on it. So the world is full of peer-to-peer learning. Our education system really need to understand that. That's what we are trying to do in schools. In schools, a lot of schools come to us, बच्चों को पढ़ा दो. Make children read. We say we don't do that. We want teachers to read first. Every teacher has a WhatsApp on their hand, mobile in their hands, and they want children to read, will not happen. So the first thing that we do in schools is build a reading forum for teachers, tell them the value of curiosity, how you can nudge yourself into everyday 1 page, 2 page, 3 page. And we don't want you to do too much. See, it's very similar to gymming, Mridula.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right? In a gym, you don't go and you build your body just in a day's time. You aaj hi gaye, aaj Arnold ban gaya. Aisa nahi hai. You have to practice it, to keep doing it. If you are interested, only then it will happen. Otherwise, it will not happen. Our job is to nudge it. So that's what we try to do. I hope I was able to do justice to your answer. I got straight away.
No, exactly. I mean, the passion comes through, right? And I so get your point of sustained effort and interest. And that's what you're saying. It's like nothing happens overnight, but at the same time, it is very sustained interest. And I agree with the point. See, it's always the, we look at downstream or upstream. What you're trying to do is actually reach out to both sides of the story, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the students, but the teachers themselves have to be thinking in a different way, looking at it in a different way, and approaching it in a different way. And, this is amazing because this I think in a few years' time, perhaps will change this rote learning system that we have. And there is this concept of thinking outside the box, which encourages a lot of students to ask questions.
Sorry, Mridula ji, you are an academician, but I will have to say this will not change very soon.
No. I know. we have a long way to go.
I think there are 2 more generations, rebellious generations will need to change. where they will just stop going to schools, and they will just, and many a times will call it disrespect to the society. But I think what they are trying to do, they are trying to show that there are amenities, we don't know how to use them.
Hmm.
So that's my personal view.
No,
That's
no,
what I apply on my
correct. Absolutely. That's why I
training.
very carefully said, in a period of time, because this is not something that's going to change very quickly. And what has been the biggest challenges that you've faced, or has there been any pushback? I mean, what is that?
Uh, No, I think because we are very happy and very passionate in whatever we do. So we just love it. So even if it 44, 45 degrees centigrades, we have to go somewhere, we go because we enjoy it. Not even once we feel this is a burden, because we don't do it as a job. To us, this is a purpose of life, and we are fortunate enough that we have found our ikigai. So we're very happy in whatever we do. So there are no challenges per se. It's just that every day is a new experiment. We
Hmm.
love experiment, and we just keep moving. We don't want to stop.
Has there been anyone from, people that you've met who have actually sort of given you feedback or an idea that you really thought, hey, this is something I really want to incorporate, or that's so practical. Has there been any suggestions like that, or even small suggestions, or, uh, you know,
So Mridula ji, we are a very design thinking focused people, and for us, our stakeholders hold the most important value. Even school children, class 2, class 3, class 1, if we are in a session, we are speaking to them. If they don't like it, there's a feedback to us, and we change very fast. People who are part of community, they are part of the community. I'm here only because of them. I'm just representing those people. There are thousands of them. Everyone brings in a different set of ideas, and that's where we are very clear in saying that we are a very reader focused organization. We are not very author focused organization. We are not a PR company. A lot of people come back to us saying, "Very book promote kar do." The
mm,
book is good, it will automatically go. But of course, we read, and if there are good books, good content, we love to do it. So I think every other suggestion that comes to us, we love to incorporate if it adds value to the cause, to the purpose. But yes, some of those suggestions have been very, very remarkable. So, for example, recently amongst all of us, we were discussing, especially for the audiobooks, what can be done. And if audiobooks are a great method, is there a way that you can start taking notes with audiobooks as well? Because that's what the challenge with audiobook. It's a 12, 13, 14 hours. After devoting your 12, 13, 14 hours, and that too with a lot of focus. Because listening to a text, you cannot do like a music, right? It is
absolutely.
it is always on your in the front part of your consciousness. So that's where you have to be focused. So what can you done if you take a note? So I'm sure I had some friends, I spoke to them. They said Alexa is trying to build some method where you can do the notations as well. So at least later on you can convert that into text. All these things will keep happening. We are also trying to experiment. A lot of suggestions in terms of how to build reading habits. A lot of teachers are a part of our network. They have their own experiments that they applied very well. So we feel happy taking suggestions and apply them as
Lovely, absolutely lovely. And this is a great start. You are working from the ground up. So there's only one way to go, and that's up. But how do you plan to scale the idea? Where do you see the next big step coming from? And what are your thoughts for the immediate and maybe a little later future as well?
so, Mridula ji, personally, I'm those kind of entrepreneurs and person as well who's very happy, contented. So I really don't know what scale up means to us. Scale up to us means, for example, we have set up libraries inside jails as well. And one of the inmates who had never felt happy, or we had never smiled, and that's what a feedback we got from jailer, that there was an inmate who was there. He was inside the jail, and we sent him a book on Kaka Hatrasi, which is the hilarious poems by Kaka Hatrasi. And that man read the book and he was happy. He was smiling for the first time. That's scale to
Wow.
us. We are okay. To a child who was running away from books, if every evening she or he switches off all the gadgets at home and starts reading at least a page and comes back with a question, that's scale to us. The parents who say that we cannot read at least a page, if they are curious and they have got a book for themselves, we are happy. We have scaled up. To people who have lost somebody, and if there's a book that has helped them with their mental peace, we have scaled up. So I think for us, the definition of scale up is different. But yes, in terms of the commercial size of it, at this point of time, with our corporate tie-ups, we must be touching nothing less than 2 lakh plus people in a single go at this point of time in various parts of the world. And that's what we would like to scale. And without we being in the front of it, we don't need it.
Right.
This 28th of June, we are celebrating the birthday of Kargil war hero Vijayan Thapar, and we are putting up a vending machine with all the books that are related to our soldiers, to our war heroes. And nowhere, as a conscious call, we are not keeping any logos on it. It's
Right.
meant for Vijayan. It's meant for Vijayan. We have nothing to do with that. Our job is only the medium, so we are doing that. So
Love.
that's scale.
Absolutely lovely. I just love the fact on how you compartmentalize the qualitative scale up in how you impact people versus the quantitative scale up on how you plan to grow and reach more people, right? And those are very lovely two ways of reaching out to society and really helping them the way you're doing. But coming back to the actual vending machine, how are these books curated? Now, you gave an example of what you're specially curating for an occasion. But when you're putting it up, say in corporate offices or in government offices, how are these books curated for the vending machine? Like, what is the costing? Who selects the books? And then I will get to the fact of how do you actually plan to bridge the gap? Like, for example, tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. I mean, there are fantastic ways to reach them as well. And then, of course, regional and language based. So, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's simple. As of now, for the corporates, it's not a big difficulty for us because we know what are the preferences there. And ultimately, every human being has 4 or 5 brackets, right? We have come across that people are very fascinated with paranormal, past life, emotional wellness. These are basics, right? And then the second layer, it's a simple Maslow's theory or Tan Man Dhan, right? It's always like this. So that's what we try to do. And also something related to senses, say all
Hmm.
the 6 senses: touch, feel, see, smell. We try to bring out subjects around that. And of course, a vending machine gives us a lot of capability to experiment. We can change the books very fast and we need not have a lot of stock. So that way it helps. The way we curate it, Mridulaji, is we have some very good, fascinating books. So, for example, today in the morning, I recommended a book that I loved reading about how a dead woman's cells were taken to do the entire medical research on everything in the world. It's a
Sheila.
multi-billion-dollar industry. Yeah,
Sheila. Yeah.
yeah, Hilas, correct. I sent it to you as well. So imagine if this book goes into a place where doctors, people related to neuroscience, people related to biotechnology are coming. I think that will make a lot of difference. They would love to pick it up. In fact, today morning itself, when that message went to some thousands of people, I have at least received 10 to 15 confirmations that okay, we got the book. Yeah, so
Wonderful.
so so that's it. That's how we curate it. And in a machine, what will happen because it gives us data as well. What were people looking at? What were they screening? What were they trying to figure out? It will give us a lot of data about them as well. And that's how we curate. In a corporate office setup, it's easier. We are setting up something inside the temples. So it books related to that specific subject. At airports, it would be related to cities, people's mood while they travel, and of course, some of the most prominent ones. Also, we are also curating it in a way that books recommended by top leaders. So, for
Right.
example, in Parliament, we will have books that parliamentarians should read
Hmm.
or recommended by the top parliamentarians of the world because it is contextual, right? Same ways in corporate, books recommended by top 5 CXOs, 5 startups, founders of startups. That's how you pick up books. Everyone believes, or everyone actually picks up a book based upon a good recommendation. So that's what our base core would be.
And also reaching out to say tier 2, tier 3 cities and getting them also into the fold of reading because they also are very active in acquiring knowledge. So any plans for that? And I'm sure you've already
Yeah,
started, right? So
we do have. In fact, that's where our app, which is the Frob app, comes into picture, where people can form their own reading forums, book clubs, and that's where we need more volunteers. We need more hands who can take it up on their own. So we have been supporting a lot of book clubs. We are supporting a lot of senior citizen welfare societies. where if they are reading, we supply books to them as per their need and requirement, and we have kept a budget for that. And we are a very Robin Hood model. We earn from somewhere, we deploy it somewhere. So, and I said earn rather than
I
not
got that.
expensive.
Yes, I got that reference. No, but absolutely. I mean,
But
this is
imagine if you have to visualize it, I sitting on a horse with a Robin Hood thing and going and taking the books from here and giving it to
all legally earned.
all
Let
legally.
us let us put it within
Yeah.
quotes. Robin Hood used to be one of my favorite heroes when I was growing up, and I used to be a voracious reader. So, and yes, my reading has come down quite a bit. I think just because sometimes life catches up, and sometimes your poor eyesight also catches up. So, but it's
It's
something that
all
I'm
about the company, Mridula ji. You are in the company now. We will keep sending you a lot of books.
That's wonderful. Nothing like it at all. I mean, it's the company maketh the man. So there's no doubt about it. But this has been absolutely lovely. And I know there are a lot more questions I would love to, keep in touch and figure out where you're going. And also, if possible, be part of that journey. And it's so interesting because I see a lot more reading coming into a lot of my peers as well. And that interest has been generated. I see a lot of the interest in reading going down in schools, which is a little alarming. But I think this is a step in the correct direction. And I really hope that this really frees the mind, because books do in their own way, one step at a time. So I just think that this is a phenomenal effort that you've taken up, you and the entire team as well. And it happens only because there is a group of people who really believe in your vision and were willing to
Yes.
support. And it's a long road, but I will not say it's a painful road, because you're so passionate. I don't think you even see any of the issues or the pains, which is wonderful. And for all entrepreneurs, that's always a big fill up. So thank you so much, Mohit. It was such a pleasure talking to you today, and more power to what you're doing.
Truly a pleasure, Mridula Garu. Thank you very much, and we'll soon meet you in Hyderabad.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
you.